And Russia is busy fighting wars, busy defending itself, and so therefore it is also busy fighting attack on its intelligence apparatus or system. And so therefore there's too much pressure to be supporting you 100%. And this is making Mali so extremely weak on the inside, and all these militia groups that have taken matters into their hands are able to run deeper into the system and kill people on the spree and take what they want to take. And yet we cannot really talk about it because the kind of association and leadership that is there. Hi, welcome to the platform. My name is Ishmael Mubarak and this is MI4 Studios. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook as well as TikTok at MI4 Studios. 300 persons and more has been displaced, with more than 30 confirmed dead in an attack by a jihadist group that is linked to Al-Qaeda in the central part of Mali. This is all happening here in the African continent. Right. What happened? That this jihadist group that is linked to Al-Qaeda and also linking to Katiba, Messina, and draw support from the Fulani ethnic groups, attacking and killing people in the central part of Mali. Let me take you straight into the details. Right, in 2012, the Tuareg rebellion happened in Mali. The Tuareg rebellion is the crisis that began when the Tuareg separatists in the northern part of Mali launched a rebellion, which was soon co-opted by the Islamic jihadist group like the Ansar Dinan and the Al-Qaeda and some other Islamic groups that came to join that particular, insurgency. In short, they were called the Akim, the A-Q-I-M, Akim. The rise of the jihadist groups, such as the Jama Nasrat al-Islam and then Wal as Muslimin, the Jinim, and Islamic State in the Greater Sahara aspect, the ISGS, expanded their operations into the central part of Mali, exploiting the local, grievances. Why am I saying local grievances? What these jihadist groups and rebellion groups have done over the period is enter into certain villages and small towns and sweep the entire places of its citizenry or of its inhabitants, whether for their money, their resources, and if these particular community or villages and small towns do have some natural resources, then the massacre or the issue becomes even more dire than it would have been in the necessary factors. So what are some of the key factors that have driven the Jinim to enter into the central part of Mali from the northern part of Mali, or after the great devastation in the northern part of Mali? Right. A coalition of jihadist functions, which I've already said is in alignment with Al-Qaeda and some other groups, have come in there to historically redeem themselves as they have been oppressed. Seemingly, they are thought some things or some bad things have been done to people. Faction A, in the wake of development, in the wake of diplomacy, in the wake of democracy, in the wake of selecting of leadership, there is some form of discrimination, or definitely a group is supposed to be selected over a particular group. And some of these minor groups that are very dangerous to security and safety of a country have always felt that their needs were supposed to be met, hence they have to meet such a decision with extreme violence and extreme killing in the African state. These ethnic militias, or these people, now broke away to form ethnic militia groups like the Dogon-led Danad and Bazagu and the Fulani Dozo militia groups have engaged in tit-for-tat violence, depending on their communal divides. And so therefore, if a particular violent or militia group attacks on militia group A or community A, the next time you find community B's militia group revenging or responding to that particular attack, giving a reciprocal action, or giving more than what it has been done to them. And this has consistently given the state, or putting the state of peace into disrepute in the northern part of Mali, and now it is creeping into the central part of Mali as it stands right now. And these ethnic mercenaries or militant groups are not just coming without the aim to kill. They come to kill and to destroy and to steal whatever it is that is in their path. And that has been the bane of the non-developmental nature of the northern, part of Mali. And these militia groups, or these ethnic groups that have, earmarked themselves for crime and for killings in the place, have made it so easy and volatile for international forces to contract them for every single or any kind of criminal activities they do want to run or take in the Mali regime. And this has made security and sovereignty very difficult for any form of leadership in Mali, which is why the military leadership of Assimi Goïta is with a firm grip of arms and is punishing anybody who they are able to arrest in any form of militia activity so well and so powerfully, like so inhumane, that you wouldn't recognize such a person you meet anymore. Right, the Malian military and the Wagner group, we all know where the Wagner group is coming from. Following coups in 2020 and 2021, Mali's junta turned to Russia mercenaries, for support, further complicating the conflict. And so, as the government is intending to protect the lives of people and state property as well as natural resources, trying to ensure that they leave the hands of the wrong people and the right people are able to benefit from the resources, Mali had to turn to Russia and had to turn to its national military service. And in a wake of defending, or in a wake of trying to fight them or do away with this mercenary groups, the issue becomes more escalated. It's like adding petrol to fire, as the more you fight them, the more they rebuild and come back, because there are so many militia groups and there are so many displaced communities, or so many people who are displaced, jobless, and also wanting a sense of belongingness. Some persons do feel like leadership has not, giving them what they ought to have given them, and so therefore the breakaways are so many and so volatile that you can easily get any number of young persons into any kind of militia groups, especially if you are backed financially and you can pay them. These people do not care. They don't mind killing families, children and women in any part of the Malian territory that you're going to send them to. All they need are guns and they are ready to shoot. And with these Russian military or Wagner group supporting the government to maintain peace and honor, it is still making the situation murky and dicey to this very regard. And so therefore there have been drivers of this particular violence that we are talking about. As the ethnic marginalization came in, the Fulani communities often feel targeted by both the state and rival militia groups, fueling recruitment of jihadist groups. So the Fulani aspect of Mali feels like the government is targeting them, and it feels like other militia groups are also targeting them, and so therefore they ought to fight for themselves. So if they cannot defend themselves alone, they will now go seeking the help of external jihadist group to support them battle for their lands and their resources. And this is one of the major driver of the ensuing criminology, killing and unrest in the northern and central part of Mali as it stands right now. And the state is very weak. Limited government presence in rural areas has allowed armed groups to act with impunity. There's so much to protect in a seat of government. There's so much to protect in a wake of defending Malians away from international, looters. This is a battle where you would have to fight with one hand and defend with the other hand. That is the situation that is happening in Mali right now. Assimi Goïta has a task which is so Herculean that you wouldn't call for such a task to yourself. And such a task, I do not think that a democratically elected leader could even attempt 20% of that particular task. Because you are going to fight international looters or international, encroachers. And on the other hand, you're supposed to defend your country and defend certain critical aspects of the country. As you're trying to stop the international bodies from ridding you of your gold, your diamond, all your minerals and your arable lands or whatever it is that you have, and then forming proper national policies to ensure that there's a systematic rulership in your country, you would also have to be fighting internally to keep, groups that feels that they are marginalized away from burning the state internally. That is the kind of fight that, Assimi Goita has currently on his hands. And as a result, government has virtually not had its hands wrapped around the entire country, and that is giving these militia groups and these marginalized people the upper hand to be doing whatever they want to do, because there's nobody watching, there's no security, there's no defense for the people or their victims, and they just pounce on them like a pound of flesh as a lion in the jungle pounding on antelopes. And that is what is happening in Mali as we speak right now. And also, one other factor is that Mali withdrew itself from the ECOWAS and also to some extent the African Union. As we all do know, Burkina Faso, Mali and Gabon and some other African countries that have military leaders or juntas leading them have withdrawn from the ECOWAS and some African unions, as well as some other organizations that have to do with the world peace and other stuff, and they are maintaining their peace and tranquility according to their internal mechanism. And so therefore the exit from the UN's Minimonsa mission in 2013 left a security vacuum, worsening the civilian vulnerability in Mali. And just away from that too, ECOWAS protection is not happening for them, and that is why the AES was formed, so that these three countries would be able to protect themselves. But then you might talk about how invalid ECOWAS and African Union will be on the front of development, but yet when it comes to security, they have records of doing something little or something, to support members to this regard. And so therefore, coming out of these association or this organization will make you definitely vulnerable in terms of numbers, in terms of patrolling, and because in being a part of this association, the other members are also scared of their security, and so therefore if you have a security threat, it means it is a threat to them as well, and so they would have to wake up and support you fight whatever insurgency or uncertainty that is creeping into your territory. Without these associations supporting Mali, it is making it difficult for them to be able to patrol these villages and towns and small cities that have been pounced on with impunity by these militia groups to this regard. The humanitarian impact has been so great that mass displacement has happened. Over 344,000 people have been internally displaced as of late of 2023, and the numbers have grown 2 years afterwards. Civilian casualties have been recorded as hundreds have been killed in attacks on villages, with homes and food stores have been destroyed, resources stolen, and women have been raped. Some people have been slashed or chopped while they are still alive, and there is a great justice gap. Mali's withdrawal from ECOWAS and the absence of international oversight have made accountability elusive, and so therefore everything now is up to what the Malian and leadership could do. Assimi Goita and what his nearing or his brothers in other junta states could also do for them, and so therefore you wouldn't have a great kind of accountability for the country, making certain critical information elusive to the Malian government and to the Malian people. In the wake of any sort of insurgency, there's going to be an African-backed intelligence that is going to help you acquire information to be able to work. And once you find yourself in a democratic dispensation, this democratic dispensation are fueled and supported by certain international organizations and countries. It could be the NATO, it could be the European Union, or it could be the United States of America that is supporting you to this regard. So if you take yourself out of democratic dispensation and you put yourself under the military junta, you would rather need a military junta that is of a greater power and greater military intelligence or greater security apparatus to be able to assist you with that. And also, when you even acquire that particular support, ensure that the support you have doesn't have a certain level of limitation, because Russia is not allowing US intelligence to work on its field, and then US intelligence is not allowing Russia to work on its field. The same way happens to Iran and Israel, and all of these countries have got their relationships together, because a friend of Russia is an enemy to United States of America, is an enemy to any state in the European Union, and especially the states that find themselves with or under the NATO agreement. And any state that is a friend to Israel or an enemy to Israel, that state is also an enemy to any state that is an enemy to Israel to this regard. Thank you so much. So if you find yourself in such a situation, you wouldn't be able to find intelligence sharing, and that makes your security very difficult to defend. That makes it very, very difficult to get information from wherever it's supposed to get to and wherever it's supposed to come from. So you become isolated diplomatically. Yes, you might be able to put your personal development and your personal policies together. Nobody is going to fight that. Yes, you can sack the Americans, sack the French, or sack whoever from your country. That's a beautiful one. But there is another war that you need to fight, because you'll be fighting blindly, and intelligence is everything, because today's military relies so much more on the power of technology. That is what they are fighting within. And so therefore you can have the manpower, you can have the physical power, and yet you wouldn't have control over the battle, because you are blind on the field of battle without any form of intelligence guiding you. So your withdrawal from certain critical association withdraws you or takes away your capability or the possibility of you having some intelligence sharing away or from the table, and there's nothing you could do about it. You need to fight your way, and it's not a one-day job to build, military intelligence that is able to help you operate well, except you have a better backup by maybe Russia or something. And Russia is busy fighting wars, busy defending itself, and so therefore it is also busy fighting attack on its intelligence apparatus or system. And so therefore there's too much pressure in this particular era. So to be supporting you 100%, Russia is losing men, is losing ammunition, is losing gadget, is losing intelligence, is losing friends and relationship, is losing resources, and so therefore it belittles its ability to back any other state to be able to be independent or fight its particular wars, however it's going to be. And this is making Mali so extremely weak on the inside, and all these militia groups that have taken matters into their hands are able to run deeper into the system and kill people on the spree and take what they want to take. And yet we cannot really talk about it, because the kind of association and leadership that is there. On another hand, the kind of military leadership that is there, in a long term, it's a great deal for the Malian people, or it's going to endure in a very good leadership preparation, because it is preparing to hand over the dispensation to a democratic one, which if happen or if possible is going to be a great deal to this regard. So the situation in central Mali is deeply troubling. The recent report that has suggested a surge in extremist violence, particularly by the groups that are linked to Al-Qaeda, is currently too high on the market. Is a lot of work on the market, and you wouldn't be able to fathom why these extremist groups will have themselves killing so many people for no reason, just for territorial gains and just for territorial defensive organism. So over 350 homes have been raided. More than 32 civilians have been killed. I wouldn't say died. They have been killed because they were killed on purpose. On the other hand, 2,000 people had to flee. How does a fleeing 2,000 people at the gunpoint able to flee and keep themselves going? So, in a separate violence in 2024, suspected jihadists targeted 6 villages, the Bandiagara area, killing about 20 people and burning grain silos, prompting mass displacement in the area. All of these issues have yet been properly sorted out. All of these issues are yet to be properly taken care of. All of these issues have not been accounted for, and they have been very evasive to the central administration or the central government. The numbers that are defending the capital are required to defend the capital, and so therefore the suburbs, the towns and villages would have to suffer the consequences of defending the capital because the numbers are lower and so insufficient. The military power lower and insufficient. The military intelligence lower and insufficient. And at the end of the day, Malians from within are experiencing so much hardship. They're experiencing so much killing. They're experiencing so much difficulties, and they're experiencing so much on diplomacy going in favor of them. This is where we need the kind of policing the West has been policing the African countries. We do not need policing when our resources are rife. I mean, we can do a proper sharing where I can have 70% because I'm the owner. You come to help me extract it, you get 30%. You don't come pay me money, extract and carry the property away. I mean, what does the West stand to gain when these issues are happening? There's so much defense happening. There's so much killing happening. There's so much destruction happening. There's so much destabilization happening. When these things are happening, so much attention has been invested on the ground, and the capital can be easily lost. When the capital is lost, you are losing your reserves. You are losing the natural resources. You are losing your major contracts and major, state IGF areas. If you lose these things out there, then you have no nation to run, because every single nation runs on resources and runs on money. And so there's a lot more for General Assimi Goita to do than to just defend the country at the capital. I know it's a Herculean task for him, but then the lives of the people in the villages and towns that have seen consistent attacks and killing also do matter. My name is Ishmael Mubarak, and this is MI4 Studios. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, follow us on TikTok and Facebook at MI4 Studios. For business and any inquiry to share news with us, send us an email, info.mi4studios@gmail.com. Thank you for watching.